Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of 2.5 Salesmen. I'm your host, Mario, together with my phenomenal host, Julio, who somehow looks even more phenomenal last time I spoke with him. I mean, you just get better looking with age. What kind of saucer is this?
I think your eyes are just getting worse with age. That's really what's happening. I'm pretty
Come
sure that's what's
on.
happening. I'm pretty sure that's especially after I was at the wedding for a while, so I don't think I got any prettier. I won't lie.
Just a beautiful human being.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So today's episode is all about enterprise selling, specifically how to multi-thread, right? So how to engage, how to target, and how to influence different stakeholders in a very complex enterprise grade deal, right?
Mhm.
So this is for all you enterprise sellers and also for the ones that you kind of aspire to go into enterprise. I've done a lot of enterprise deals in my career. Most of the time when I ran sales, I was kind of the one that's been doing enterprise anyway. So I had to learn.
Can I argue with you right away?
Of course, I expect nothing less.
I mean, why is multi-threading just for enterprise?
Oh, all righty. Okay. Well, so to be perfectly honest, excellent point. I don't disagree. It was when you say multi-threading, like I immediately associated with enterprise, right? So that's kind of. Do you
Right.
think
Okay.
there is space for it in like chasing SMEs? Well, and yes, like medium-sized companies, but in small deals where you have like one or two decision makers?
I mean, in the small deals, I would say maybe less. But when you talk about multi-threading, I don't just think about closing deals. I also think about prospecting, right? And sometimes you'll get the CEO tells you no, and the CEO is like, hell yes, or vice versa. And let's be honest, when people say no, they barely remember. So I think sometimes, like, I think it should be in the salesman handbook that you should always contact at least, I would say, 2 people every, I don't know, like 30 to 50 employees. Think about it, just in a crazy. I don't want to put a number to it, but like 2, 3 people for me is the minimum level whenever I look at contacting an account. And then obviously when you go enterprise, you have to do that just to keep the deal alive. But you generally should do that just to start the deal, basically, as well.
Yeah. And I don't think so. Yes, prospecting into enterprise is a whole lot of different than prospecting into SMEs or
Of
into large
course.
companies, stuff like that. But if you break it down in silos, it is really not that different, right? Because the way it's not different is that then you look at enterprise as a group of smaller companies that are intertwined under one roof. Like this is actually how I look, right? So it's just a lot of smaller companies just kind of working together under one hat or one umbrella. Obviously, with having access to the same budget, having same or similar issues, problems. Obviously, it's one logo, but you can break it down, right?
Of course, of course. I mean, I think it's generally is one of the skills of the enterprise people or salespeople. Sorry, is obviously try and figure out how do I play the politics, how do I get everyone to agree to it, etc. Right?
Yeah.
Which I think obviously I've mainly been doing middle-sized companies, right, and sometimes small companies. So I never felt that you have to play politics that badly. But overruling, but the advantage of SME or medium size that you can overrule much more easy decision makers.
Yeah.
While in an enterprise, very rare that someone is that willing to push.
Yes, this is one of the things that I see salespeople struggling, especially when doing enterprise. I struggle with it, especially in the beginning. It's not that I failed to identify who were the key buying influences. Like if you're using Hyman Miller terminology, it's the buying influence, right? So economic buyer, user, technical buyer, and contract. Okay, fine. It is understanding the in-department and inter-department dynamics. So if I'm running one department and someone else is running number two and someone else is running number three, how do these depart? And I need a buy-in from all of them. So how does that play out?
Of course.
Right. So what is the dynamic between them?
I think this is what the difference between the real high-level salespeople and the normal ones is also to having the emotional intelligence and communication skills to actually have that conversation.
Yeah.
You know, instead of being like, you know, I've got a good product, solves your problem, etc. Whenever you're selling to enterprise, unless you're that one super innovative startup for the first 6 months, someone has got something similar, right?
For sure. 100%. And there is one component in selling enterprise. I am not ashamed to say I've used it because I know my competitors are using it as well. And that is, I call it setting landmines, right? So first of all, when you're selling to enterprise, you gotta know not only, I mean, of course, you gotta know your product, right? That's 101. But you gotta know your competitor's product and what is it capable of? What is it doing? What are their customers saying? What are the people who have churned away from your competitors? What did they say? Right? That's kind of that's the key. And then when you're when you're multi-threading, when you're talking with different buying influences, you try to set landmarks.
Of course. Oh, but have you looked into, so how do you solve this problem now? Oh, okay. How is that going to affect you? So basically, you just want to get into the point that when they're having a conversation among themselves, there's literally a bomb exploding. Well, guys, did you hear about this? Basically,
one of my favorite things ever is I want to learn how they pitch, how my competitors pitch. So what are the things that they value? What is their like unique value proposition? Right, and then just stepping up a landmine on that, either by coaching either my champions or people who am I talking to in the organization, what questions to ask, or just saying outright, well, look, some of these companies will tell you you need X. Do you really? I mean, if you do, we are probably not the match. But I mean, look, do you really need it? Things like that.
Of course. You're basically pulling away essentially to some extent, or you're testing because maybe they do need that, and then maybe you should move on because this is the biggest annoying thing with enterprise deals, right? Is that you can carry, what is this, 6 to 9 months is the life cycle, I would say, on the average.
Sometimes up. My last one was 9 months.
Yeah, I would say I think like deal life cycles have become longer. I would say 9 months maybe is the average. So you don't want to waste 9 months if you have your own landmine and you just haven't put it there, because it will explode, because you can't assume the other account executives and sellers are just terrible. You're not going to win deals
No.
Right?
You assume, my assumption is always they know as much as I do, although they don't. They know as much as I do. Right, so they are doing the same brilliant tactics that I am doing. So I always kind of prepare.
Of course.
And again, it kind of brings me to one more point in multi-threading, where I do see a lot of salespeople struggle. And this is, you and I have touched on this many times because of the sales training. So every single stakeholder, and we know that there are many, especially in enterprise, everyone has different needs. Not only that, everyone talks differently. Everyone has a different communication style. So a lot of people a lot of sales guys, a lot of kind of executives just go with one fit solution to everyone. And I'll let you comment. And then I'll kind of go a little bit deeper what I actually mean.
I would say that actually you touched on one of the biggest problem in human communications, management, human relationships, right? I'm like this, everyone else thinks like this. Let me talk to people like this. It's just not how the world works, right?
No. Absolutely not. And it's great. Enterprise sellers know this either by training or intuitive, that they need to talk differently to different people. Some people like hype, some people like logic and rationale, some people like Excel spreadsheets and tables, some people like to joke, some people like vision and direction where we're going, and so on and so on. So you have to be flexible enough, to want to recognize how people want to get their information, and then how they would like to be talked to.
I mean, I would add to that not only is correct, but I don't think you have to recognize it. You just need to be able to talk to the people and be like, how is this person? How do they think? Because unless the champion has been there for 2 months, he's going to have some idea. And if he doesn't, he should be able to recommend you someone else that can tell you, right? And then you need to ask the right question. How have you persuaded this guy before? Was it like a presentation? Did you talk to him? Did you get him drunk at dinner? How are you going to play this in order to get their attention? And I think it's all about the marginal gains, right? It's these little things piled up that will take you from average close rate of 15 to like 19, 20, 25, etc.
Yes, exactly that. And let's add one more thing to the mix, especially important in multi-trade, and that is sales cycles in enterprise are long. So if you're not coming, and most of the rookies are not coming from enterprise anyway. If you're not coming from enterprise, you're kind of used to shorter sales cycle, right? So what this means is you are used to things happening in a faster way, right? So things happening quicker, faster. And this is like one of the traps that I see salespeople fall into, is not having enough patience, not having enough strategic planning. And also, if you're coming from a company where the sales cycle was shorter, you don't need that much resources from the entire company, right? But in enterprise, you need everything. You need your tech team, you need your designers, you need your HR, maybe you need your boss. You need a whole lot of resources in order to get the deal done. And you need to be the one who's organizing and utilizing all of your in-house internal resources.
Of course. Well, I mean, adding on to that as well, like I think we always talk about the one champion, right? But as you said, 9 months is a long time. With the average tenure these days, I think that it's always smart to try and make sure that the one champion becomes 2 champions, become 3 champions. Because if you only have one champion and if that person is gone, you waste a lot of time. If you start to have other people that are really bought into the project, and again, sometimes it's hard because the champion is like, oh no, you only talk to me, right? They want this ownership of the deal, but I think it's important to try and get past that. Otherwise, you'll deal just rests on one leg. Basically.
And this is again a super interesting point, because this happens more often than you think. That is, key buying influencers leaving. So you do all this painstaking work. You try to cover all of your bases, right? As you said, you develop one champion, one who is super enthusiastic, who's willing to sponsor you, who's willing to be your advocate, and he leaves. And then someone else comes in and likes the competition better. What are you gonna do then, my friend?
You wasted your time. You go cry in a corner. I was gonna be my second guess. Sit and cry in a corner, or I don't know. Start a new spinning class, I guess.
Yoga. Let's do a yoga
Yeah,
retreat.
meditation, that's probably what the next step is.
Oh my God. But it is this constant change. And also, you touched on this briefly, but let's dissect it a little bit, right? That is politics. Right? Politics plays huge role in enterprise selling.
Yeah.
And you as a seller need to know how to freaking navigate that. It is so okay. So one of the things is always, where does the budget come from for something like this, right? So then sometimes there is a budget, but you will have two or more, which is you're probably fucked. But if it's two, you can maybe manage, like two departments fighting over the same budget. One department wants your solution, another one wants something else.
Very common, generally speaking.
Very common in enterprise. So what do you do then, man?
I think I mean, there's no obviously one answer fits all. I think first of all, to save your time, you need to understand whether your department has got any real influence, right? I mean, for example, with myself working a lot with HR, sometimes if the HR is going against sales, honestly, very often you're just better off talking to the CEO directly and seeing if there's any chance, rather than trying to coach the HR into winning against the salesperson, right? Because it's just not going to happen. But yeah, so I think first of all, you need to figure out where you're standing, and also you need to figure out where the pain is, right? Because maybe if it's your budget for something that's business critical versus something very simple that could be waiting 6 months, then yeah, again, you basically a deeper analysis would be the first step in figuring out whether there even is a chance, right?
Yeah. And that kind of brings me to, and again, I kind of exploded when I read Hyman Miller, the strategic selling book. That's really when my enterprise sales took off. And that is one very overlooked part, that sellers, so they're not chasing it proactively. They're just kind of waiting for it to happen. That is the technical influence, right? So in Hyman Miller, technical influence is someone who can disqualify you by technicalities. Usually this is, they review your tech, they just review the features that you have, compliance, legal, all of those things, right? And if in my experience, if you're not proactively going after technical influence or technical buyers, you will get burned at some point. Because you get on a call and you just see what are the technical requirements. What does legal say about your privacy and stuff like that. Right?
Yes. I mean, I think in some way this will only, if done right, should only happen a few limited times, right? Because you're gonna get screwed on legal one time, and hopefully you learn the lesson. You're gonna get screwed on supply chain, let's say, not really applicable to software, but sometimes supply chain be very crucial. You get screwed on financing. Like I actually was talking to a friend of mine that deals fall through with big companies, because in Italy, everyone pays in 90 days. Like 90 days from invoice, which is ridiculous, but that's the way that it is. And the American company was working for us like 45 days as the max. And imagine sending away hundreds of thousands of euros deal because you can't agree on when the pay date is going to be, right? I know that now it starts with the front foot. So I think it's about looking for the disqualifying factors early, and if you look them before they come up in a random call with 7 decision makers, then maybe you can prevent them, right?
Yeah, in one of the deals that I actually won, I had to negotiate. So I was negotiating with user influences, right? I already had a buy-in from the economic buyer, and in parallel, I was negotiating the contract with legal. But I've never done like US corporate because this was a big US corp. So I had a guy, I brought him in, like he's not a sales guy, brought him in who had experience with it, and we hired outside legal counsel.
Yeah.
And like when the lawyer looked at it, the first draft of the contract, he said, there's a clause in here that says they can steal your IP without any repercussions. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, you're a multi-billion-dollar company, and we are like a fucking startup from nowhere.
But that's exactly look. I remember the first time
they took it out, but the audacity just to leave it in.
Look. I remember the first time we were negotiating with a big, top 5 pharmaceutical company in the world, and we barely had a legal team at the time, and I literally look at the contracts, like, it says here that you basically can decide to not pay invoices, and it was like, oh no, it's not phrased like that.
What do you mean by that exactly?
It's like, listen, the legal was like, oh well, no, that's it's just put for the protection. I was like, come on, guys, I'm not stupid. Like, I know what this said. Like, there was one clause that if we don't pay invoices, we can never apply a penalty or interest rate. And I'm like, this basically means you can decide to never to pay us. Oh, but of course we'll pay. We're a big, important company. It's like, yeah, but what if you decide not to? And they were like, oh, like ridiculous things. So big companies, they'll have legal lawyers that, the legal people that will make it impossible. And then if you don't have someone good, they'll just screw you.
Of course. And that's why, so my advice to anyone doing negotiation, always have your either in-house legal or outside legal counsel who knows the law and who knows how to deal with these things. Right. Preferably a local lawyer. And I have a really good example of this. My wife, so shout out to my wife, her company was just renegotiating a deal with a huge airline. Not gonna name it. So what her company does is catering for airlines, right? So they supply all of the food and water and drinks and stuff like that. So candy bars and shit on the airplanes. So they were negotiating with this company, and like it's going like shit. Like they're getting nowhere. But I'm just like I'm sitting and just listening to what she's telling me. And it turns out that her company was not wise enough to employ a local lawyer to represent them to the local airline in that country. Because the local lawyer knows the customs, knows how to negotiate, he knows how to talk. They had a British guy who is well behaved, very proper. These guys are like animals. Like you don't send a gentleman in an attire to a pack of wolves. He literally he just gets frustrated. He gets super annoyed, but these guys just thrive in it, thrive in that environment. So if they had a local lawyer, it would have been much smoother.
That's I mean, generally, I want to bring back the conversation to the multi-threading specifically, right? Because obviously this is as usual we're going off the tangent, and it's actually really good advice, but there's a couple of things that I think would be relevant to ask you. The first one is, I've heard from salespeople before, right? That's, again, as we're talking about earlier, the champion is blocking them. It's kind of saying, we can't, you just talk to me, right? And if you're just talking to one person, your deal is never gonna make it, right? So what would be the advice you give to your sellers when they face that, and how they can walk around it?
I would try to get ahead of that very early on. Like I would try to not get into that position. So one of the questions I love asking, especially in the kind of first interaction, is who else should we be talking to? Or sometimes a variant of this is who will be pissed if he or she is not included.
Okay, I like that more, because I think who else you should be talking to is just what everyone asks, and someone that's just bought before is gonna know what's going on. But I think pace is a very good way around that question. Okay, and what if they still are being resistant? What would be your advice in that case?
Well, really, I would say it really depends on the size of the deal, and influence of your product on the entire organization, right? So what I mean by that is if you are influencing just one department, maybe making sense. Just try to talk to user influencers in the company itself, right? So if you're talking to head of the department, try to find out who are the people reporting to him, and then try to talk to them. So kind of go bottom up, just to see what is the sentiment. Like do a short discovery with them. Just talk about the problem. Don't mention the solution. Don't mention anything. Just try to talk about the problem to kind of feel the pulse. Feel the pulse of it. If your product is influencing multiple departments, you will not get that answer. No way.
Okay.
You won't get it. Like this is no single person, even if it's a CEO, gets that type of a buying power in nowadays corporations. Right? Especially if you're influencing multiple departments. So I'm talking about influencing multiple departments. Right?
I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about the champion just not wanting.
But he's not your champion. Develop someone else.
All right.
Go after someone else.
Okay. That's what I was getting at. Like, is either you go someone else or you try to handle it with him and just
no. I would if he was blocking me, I would try it. If I really want this account, if I see a potential, if I see that pain is very, very big, I will go after someone else for sure.
Okay. I would try to talk some sense into him first, personally. Like I would just go with like, look, can I tell you something without you being angry? And they'll be like, oh, come on. I was like, no, you're probably gonna get angry, and then I don't know what to do at that point. But no, come on. I was like, look, statistically speaking, if I don't talk to someone else, we won't be implementing this solution. So we might as well walk away now. You know, and then at that point is like if he's really gonna be like, well, now either you talk to me or you walk away, then at that point you go around him entirely, right?
Yeah, if you still want this account.
If you still want this account.
But you risk alienating him and him becoming. Yeah, I would if that happens, and if he's still stubborn, if he still is not allowing access, I would walk away.
Fair enough.
And then come back in 3 months and target someone else.
Yeah.
Let him forget about it and then target someone else. Yeah. I wouldn't give up on the account. No way. We never give up on the account, but I would give up on him. And then I would go 3 months. Presumably, or I know hope is not a good strategy, but hoping they don't sign someone else.
Yeah, that would be the only risk, right? But anyway, I don't think there's any easy solution. This is a very rare situation, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I hope for the listeners this doesn't happen often.
Okay, let's touch one more quick subject, and I think we can wrap it up, right? So we did mention this, and that is the internal support for enterprise sellers, right? So you as a salesperson need to be super skilled at asking for help, but also when you are taking the position of enterprise sales, right? You need to ask this question. I would ask this question in an interview. Like, what is the internal support for enterprise sellers? What can I count on to bring in the deals? Right? If I'm a lone wolf, that's not going to cut it, especially not in enterprise sales arena.
Of course not. Yeah.
So what kind of support? So guys, if you stuck around this long, try to be really, really assertive when finding out what type of in-house support you can count on when running enterprise deals.
Absolutely. Makes sense. I think I was reading some statistics. There's a lot of sellers obviously don't feel very supported by marketing. And I guess a lot of this is just salespeople being salespeople. But I do think sometimes it's the case of like, you won't close a deal without the case studies, without the data, without, you can get people as emotional as you want, but if there's no rational behind it, then you won't be able to emotionalize all enterprise company, right?
Yeah, and you have to remember, this is kind of important. We kind of left the really important bits for the end. So you guys have to watch it in the end. And that is, companies, like especially enterprise grade companies, are shit at organizing themselves internally. So you need to do that job for them. Like you need to do that for them. And this means if your tech needs to talk to their tech, you need to organize it. If you need something from their HR, you are the one that goes after it. If you need legal departments to talk, you get their legal and you get your legal to talk. So you are the kind of the key communicator between departments of your company and their company.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. You basically, only if you take full responsibility, that's how you gain percentage points for closing deals, right?
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, any last thoughts on multi-threading in enterprise?
I actually think we talked enough about this. To be honest, we explored most of the basics. Obviously, just get on with it. Don't be scared about doing it.
Yeah. For me, is just patience. Patience. Be strategic, and then cover all of your bases. Cover all of your buying influences, and hopefully you will land that 7 to 9 figure deal.
Nice.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Next episode, super special. We have a very, very cool guest, a very good friend of mine. And I can't wait. I will hype her up. She's fantastic. And I can't wait for her to join us on this podcast.
Awesome. See you later, Mario.
See you later, Julio.
Bye.